Yer Big Dog. Oh, welcome to episode 4 of Fuzzybutts and Friends. And 4 this time, it's so appropriate because 4 stands for Fuzzybutts. My absolute to talk about Fuzzybutts. And so it's so auspicious, or as we say on the road, trail magic. It's just trail magic today that we have with us Denise Huntsman and Barbara Matson. Barbara, I've known for some time now, both of which are with the National Great Pyrenees Rescue. Welcome to the two of you, to Fuzzybutts and Friends.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Good. Just kind of a show note here before we start, guys. We're having Memphis got hit with a massive ice storm that shut down the grid for several days. So Ginger and I are both here in Memphis. We're experiencing a little connectivity problem. We're going to have to go get a Wi-Fi booster to resolve this technical issue. So my apologies for the technical issues in this episode. We'll solve those soon. So that's why we say puppy up on our side, because we all have to puppy up. So thank you, Barbara and Denise, to be a part of episode 4 of Fuzzybutts and Friends. So both of you are with an organization that is near and dear to my heart. But I wanted to start out. So I provide these talking points or these bullet points before the show, and this time I kind of make notes and I sent it to Ginger and she sent it to you. And there was a note on there that I left that you had no idea what the heck it was and what I was talking about. It kind of scared the heck. It kind of scared the I want to read this specifically. It was a note to myself So why are Pyrenees puppies so cute? And how do we pass laws against new ones? Because that's the solution to the problem. And so it was kind of a note for me to start the show on a funny note, but darn it, isn't that true, Barbara, Denise?
Yes.
Yes, they're way too cute. I think that's part of the problem, and some people don't see past the cuteness. They don't see the dog growing up and getting big and barky and then challenging anyone that comes to their house. They only see the puppy, and that's what happens is that's why we get so many people trying to surrender their dogs to us. It's terrible. I have to say, I get 5 or more emails from people a day. When I was getting ready for this call, all of a sudden someone sent in a form. I got 2 or 3 pictures that were texted to me. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't get a break. The rescue doesn't get a break.
Absolutely. And Barbara, you are the head of the organization, the National Great Pyrenees Rescue. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, do you have, I hear a Fuzzybutt back in the background somewhere.
I apologize.
I wanted to talk about, no worries, that's what this show is about. In fact, we're calling this Fuzzybutts and Friends. There were no Fuzzybutts around here. It's just me and my occasional co-host, Ginger, the executive director of the foundation. Again, I forgot to introduce. My apologies. I keep forgetting to put that in my script, Ginger. You got to write it for me.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
There you go.
I'm sorry. You got to write my script for me. Okay, but so my question to you is, I put in my notes here is, do you have the peer addiction? Because I'm on my 5th great peer. Never thought it would be. So do you have peers yourself?
Well, Denise, how many do you have, Denise, at this point?
Of my very own, I have 9 peers. Well, actually, no, they're not all peers. I apologize. There are 5 peers. And then actually in this home, on my property, I have 19 because I have a litter of a mama and 9 puppies that I'm fostering.
Oh my gosh.
All right. You're a true believer.
Don't ever call me to foster Pyrenees puppies because they will not leave my house. They just won't.
Oh, I bet you if you had 9, they would.
Well, maybe.
I'm with you, Denise, on that. The Pyrenees cuteness certainly has its limits considerably. So Denise, you have what I call the peer addiction because, but it's good that you have the Fuzzybutt part of the show. I have not. It's just Ginger and I have not figured out how to actually get the Fuzzybutts into my studio, my office, and be a part of the show. So thank you for having Fuzzybutts to get through it. So you have the Pyrenees, what I call the Pyrenees. I'm on my 5th. Barbara, you.
I'm dogless at the moment.
Wow.
We can
How'd that
fix
happen?
that.
We moved in November. We moved to a condominium. We waited for our Pyrenees to pass in March. And we actually, all our dogs got older, you know how that goes, and sort of one by one. And we knew that we wanted to move at some point, but we didn't want to uproot anybody. So, when the last one passed in March, we actually started looking for a place, for a different type of place, because we're getting older, and this place we're in now allows us to have 2 pets, but we have 2 cats at the moment. So we will probably be getting a dog, but me being older, I have some surgery in my future and other things. So we're kind of on hold right now as far as Pyrenees, but I definitely want another one, although I'm being told maybe a mix would be better, like a Aussie mix, a little smaller.
I don't know, Ginger X, and let me tell you, he's just a mess of trouble. That guy is Smiley. His name is deceiving. Yes, he's all smiles, he's all hugs, but he's a troublemaker. Well,
And he
without
came
making
from
a joke,
National Great
though,
Pyrenees Rescue. I was a
Oh.
foster sale.
part of the family. That's right. And you fostered him, and then you ultimately adopted him. That's
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
right.
I wasn't going to keep him because he was younger and I didn't have any other younger dogs. And then I wound up fostering a litter of 7 puppies, not Pyrenees. And I was on, everybody was spoken for except one of them. And I was like, well, I could keep her, but I don't have anybody young for her to play with. And I was like, oh, I have Smiley. And that's when I filled out the adoption papers for both of them.
Smiley's a good kid. Just so you know, we got 3 characters. We got Smiley. He's Great Pyrenees, part knucklehead or something else. And then we got Grayson, I think is probably full Pyrenees. And then we got her little one, Kelly, who I call little baby Kraken. And the 3 of those comprise Los Nuevos Tres Amigos, the new 3 amigos. So there truly are a bunch of characters. But Barbara, I can't get away before making kind of the joke, though, because I kind of find it kind of funny, is that here you are, the head of the National Great Pyrenees Rescue, and you don't have a dog yourself. So that's kind of like a chef on a diet, don't you think? Or a chef that doesn't really eat his own
It's
cooking.
true. Well, I mean, I've had over 20 Pyrenees, but at this point, I am dogless, and
You have put your time in. You have earned your
Yes,
badge of
yeah,
honor.
and
Place
I keep showing my husband pictures of puppies, and he keeps going.
Cheers to that. And you see my cancer sucks mug. I got to point this out every time. I love it. Well, that's great. Well, so you definitely are a true believer then, Barbara, and I hope you do find a new companion because in my experience, boy, I will get there at some point. We slow down and so on and so forth, and things make things make a little bit more different sense in our daily lives. Our operating environment certainly changes, and then we have to reevaluate. And I dread that time thinking about not having. I just can't think about not having another Fuzzybutt in my life. But we all get there. Who knows? I hope I never do. We'll see. But I get it. Hopefully, you'll find a companion soon. Maybe. Because I don't know, I'm kind of jumping the gun about talking this because my heart, and I keep saying it, Grayson is still a Fuzzybutt trainee. And I thought I hadn't paid the 3, whatever the adoption fee is. And I think Ginger snuck in and paid for it, because in my mind, I'm not sure I might have to send him back. So
yeah, that's not happening.
you might have to take Grayson back. So, okay. So which one of you, so you both, you're familiar with the Great Pyrenees breed. Which would you like to start off? Because I want to talk. I love it. The breed is the history. I'm just fascinated. Breed. Which one of you or both would like to? Which one of you would first like to start talking about Great Pyrenees?
Well, if you want to talk about how they're fascinating and they have wonderful history, it's so romantic. I mean, you see a picture of a dog in front of a French but most of us meet them under less. Was a mutt that came up, and I fell in love with her personality because she didn't. When I read about them and found out more about them, you know, a lot of people like, what's Pyrenees? Or a lot of people say Pyrenees. You become fascinated by their history, the fact that they probably came from Turkey or some parts of Asia, walked around the Mediterranean till they got to the French Pyrenees, to France and Spain, and they couldn't go anymore. They had to stop at the Mediterranean. But this whole breed of white guardians was dropped off all over Europe. You have your Maremas in Italy, you have your Kuvas in Hungary. I mean, these dogs took a long trip to get where they were going. And, you know, the Pyrenees was kind of the end of the line. So, yeah, it's fascinating, you know, how they developed, and the fact that they're such an ancient breed. They're very pure. They're very pure. Even, you know.
I love how. Sorry about that. There is such a delay in this. I apologize if I talk over anybody, but I love how you put that. They're a romantic breed. Their history is romantic. I love it. Denise, you feel the same way, and you're shaking your head.
Yeah, I do. I don't have quite the years of experience as Barbara. As a matter of fact, I got involved with the Great Pyrenees. I was a golden retriever and border collie person. Lived
Wow.
on acres with horses and totally different breeds, right? And I started fostering after I saw the need in Kentucky and Tennessee. And the first thing I said to my brother was, I'm going to foster this breed because I won't want to keep them. And the reason was because they had to have a fence. So what did I do? I bought kennel pieces and put up a fence so that I could foster. I ended up, well, I've got 6 of them now. So they're just like Barbara said, there's just something about them. They're, you know, the look in their eyes, the fact that they don't listen to you unless they want to humor you.
Yes.
Shaking your head.
I know
Yeah.
Ginger wants to say something. Ginger and I could, the difficulty is here. I could fill an entire episode talking just with stories about the 5 Pyrenees, the 3 I've lost, and the 2 that they currently still irritate me. I love them. I will always have Pyrenees. And I had to ask myself, because I was back then, I was 2 for 2 with Pyrenees and cancer. I lost to cancer. Do I want another Pyrenees? And I'm like, okay, I may be 2 for 2 with Pyrenees and cancer. Now I'm 3 for 3 that have passed all cancer. So I'm 100%. So now it's like, they're 100% cancer, but they're also 100% great companions for me. And so they fit my personality, but just they irritate me to no end. They're the bane of my existence. And one of the reasons, and I think it's just their nature, is mine, or maybe it's me. And I was born the year of the dog, so I'm a dog. But my boys are ungrateful. I call them ingrate Pyrenees, or ungrateful Pyrenees, because they just, I like you said, Denise, anything I say, talk to the paw. Now, Mommy G, who that's Mommy G, Ginger, is one of the many mommies they have and made on their travels. It's one they spend a lot of time with, but when they're around her, good God, whatever they can. I mean, that's actually that sentinel instinct, that wonderful sentinel instinct with Ginger, and she can tell stories about Indiana. That protection comes in, and that's also I want to talk about too. And Denise, it sounds like you have property there. What I love about Pyrenees is they walk the perimeter that they protect. Their sentinels, and that comes from thousands of years of protecting livestock. So Ginger, tell some stories about Indiana. Let's just talk Pyrenees for a little bit, and then we'll move on.
Well, you were just talking about sentinels. So Hudson, I think, was he was wonderful, but it was all Hudson. I never, except the stubbornness and not doing what you wanted him to do, he didn't really act like a Pyrenees to me. But I took him to my niece's house, and she had a fence yard, and I let him out, and her yard had a little hill to it. And I was like, where did he go? How do I miss a big fluffy dog, even in the dark, a white dog? And so I realized he was out there actually walking the fence line, and I had never seen him do that before. Like in Memphis, I'd never seen him do that. But at my niece's, who kind of lived out in the country, he walked the fence line a couple times to make sure we were going to be safe, I guess. I'm not sure how Hudson would have kept us safe, but Indiana is a whole nother story. I guess, what was it, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, Indy started just really protecting me, even against Luke. He was here watching a football game, and I was reading a book because I'm not really into football. And Indy was lying down on the floor next to me, and Luke starts going, yay, all this business. And Indiana gets up and gives him this look like, you will sit down, you will keep your hands to yourself, and you will be quiet. And Luke is like, but he's my son. I'm like, sit down, because he doesn't play. When it comes to me and protecting me, I guess I'm either his goat or baby sheep, or I'm not sure, but
right.
It's all about protecting me.
It's fascinating. My flat and studio are upstairs, and Ginger resides downstairs, and it's interesting. Indiana used to be an upstairs dweller where I live, and now he's a downstairs dweller where Ginger resides and her kids reside. So he's kind of a traitor. He's now down there, to the point, like what Ginger was saying, that sometimes I'll go down to check on him late at night, and if he's resource guarding Ginger where she stays and sleeps, he will growl at me. I'm like, I'm your dad. I'm Poppy. I brought you. I didn't bring you into this world, but I certainly can take you out, and I will contact National Great Pyrenees and the one just like. So
yeah.
Anyway,
no.
so we could talk about Pyrenees for hours. Great stories. It's great. So let's so Barbara or Denise, let's start with you. How did you get involved in animal rescue?
Well, I've been around dogs since I was a tiny baby. My dad was a red bone person, and when I moved out on my own, stray dogs would show up, and I kind of did it on my own. And then after my first actual adoption, I started fostering for that local rescue. And then when my last golden retriever passed away, I signed up with National Great Pyrenees Rescue to foster for them. That was 9 years ago, and I can't imagine not having a peer now.
Anna, right there, my
Yep.
boy. I don't know if you guys follow us or track us on social media, but he had a hard day yesterday. He had we had a cancer scare with him, and we still don't have the A-OK. We have some suspicious masses that we removed from the mouth, and a mass or something looked suspicious from an abdominal X-ray. We feel a lot better than we go, but he had his teeth clean, he had his nails trimmed, and his ears clean, and he hates all of those things, so he's absolutely miserable. But
poor guy. Yeah, poor guy.
he's a good kid. So we didn't get him from you. We got him from the Bowling Green, the great people at Bowling Green. So
nice.
What about you, Barbara? How did you get involved in animal rescue? Because you've been running the National Great Pyrenees for a while, correct?
Yes, since it was started in 2006, but I actually started rescue with the Breed Club in 2003 because we had adopted a dog, or actually we got a dog. We didn't adopt, we bought a dog from a breeder, which is what people did in the Northeast at that time. That's where you got your dogs. Did our homework, went to the meetings of the Breed Club, learned all about the breed, which seemed perfect for us because we were living on the side of a mountain in the Catskills. at a 2,000-foot elevation. And here we are, we got a mountain dog. So, you know, it worked great until, you know, you realized how productive they were. And anyone comes to visit, you know, you've got to manage your dogs. But I became very aware of the situation in the South because of a woman who lived in Florida. Her name was Joan Fremo, and very, you know, she's very poignant. I mean, her. And I was doing rescue in the Northeast, and I was talking to rescuers in the South, and they said, you know, people in the Northeast are in waiting lists, and in the South, they're killing these dogs. They're outdoor dogs. So it really impacted me that there was such an interest in the North and the Northeast in them, and yet in the South, nobody wanted them. They were dying. So about that time, the transports became available. You know, Pets Transport, Pets LLC was one of the first, and they were leaving out of Tennessee, and they were bringing dogs to the Northeast. And all of a sudden it became possible to move these dogs from the South 24 hours. So that, you know, these people in the North who are on waiting lists who don't have dogs, you know, we can start bringing these dogs up from the South. So the name of the organization, and National Great Pyrenees Rescue, actually came from a Yahoo chat group that exists. What do we call, you know, transporting these dogs, moving them? And a woman named Layla Folk in Texas, who had the group, said, take this name. You know, so we did. I mean, we could have been New York Rescue, you know, Pure Rescue, we could have been anything. But because people were starting to realize, even at that time, that it's possible to move these dogs from where they are, you know, from one state to another, you know, where they're not wanted, to places where they are wanted. And you can save so many lives. So that's
Boy, that's so wonderful that you connected the dots. My apologies for somebody I interrupted. If you want to go and jump in, I'll get back to my point in a second. So who do I interrupt? Okay. Let's see. So that's so wonderful that you connected the dots, and it's also something that personally I experienced in walk one. And I always like any occasion I have, and I'll use this one to talk about it, because I backpacked, well, the three of us, Hudson, Murphy, 16 states. That was walk one. And so I guess, Denise, you haven't heard who I am, or who are kind of.
Well, I forgot about that. No, Bob told me. I just forgot. I still have been off.
So we walked through a big swath of the South, and I witnessed firsthand how big the problem of homeless dogs, and that actually they're so bad in the South, as you guys know, that they form these feral hunting packs. And Hudson and Murphy and I almost got killed, almost got attacked outside of Madison, Indiana, by a pack of 5 Rottweilers and 1 pit bull. I think that's correct, or it's reverse. I'm dyslexic, so I get that kind of reverse. I have to go check, remember that correctly, but it was frightening. And so, man, it's a huge problem. And so it's great that you connected. But what's interesting is that the further north that we went, from Texas, where we started, to Boston, the less you saw of that. And so I saw what you're saying firsthand, is that, so the natural thing is you have a surplus of Great Pyrenees by people who adopt these or buy them from a breeder, and they don't know what they're getting, and they're not educated properly, and so they by year one, oh my God, I didn't sign up for all this stuff, and so I want to get rid of it, and they do whatever they do, which usually are pretty bad, and they get rid of it, And so we have a surplus of that down here in the South. And like you set up in New England and other parts in the country where they don't have that problem. They have a cat issue or cat problems, but they don't have the same problems with dogs. And so wonderful that you made that connection back in 2006. And what a wonderful story that you have as well. Let's see. So that's a perfect dovetail, I think, sort of my own experiences with the homeless animal population in America, 16 states, and also as it pertains to Great Pyrenees. So Barbara, how big is? Give us a macro view of the problem in the United States. How many? First of all, how many homeless dogs are there out there? You can say kitties because we're puppy up, even though we puppy up for kitty cats too. Cancerous cross species problem. We say companion animals. But so how many homeless dogs are out there? And more importantly, breed specifically, how big of a problem is that in Great Pyrenees? Barbara.
Well,
Or Denise, whichever one.
Go ahead, Barbara.
well, there's millions of homeless dogs there, and you see the number 3 million bandied around. I've seen 5 million. There's a lot of dogs that need homes, and it affects the Pyrenees, I think, more than other breeds because of who they are and because of how adorable they are as puppies. And the whole livestock guardian being one is an issue because they're not all great livestock guardians. You know, they will eat somebody's chicken, they will attack somebody's goat, and they are off that property if they're not shot. So they're surrendered for not being good livestock guardians. Right now, we're also seeing that people are selling them to be English cream Goldens. I get emails from people who tell me they bought them as English cream Golden Retrievers, which sell for thousands of dollars. And of course, they're not. They're Great Pyrenees. They're white, and maybe they look like them to some extent, but people are buying them under false pretenses. And then when they find out that they're not, they're out the door. So the problem is worse than ever. We have more puppies than ever that Denise can speak to. How many, do we have 40 puppies in rescue?
We have 40 puppies right now. We have 4 litters of puppies. I've never seen this many litters of puppies at one time before.
And you will show none of those pictures of puppies to me because I got my fill with the Pyrenees I have. I can't look at pictures of Pyrenees puppies because it's just so hard how and especially the ones in need. But in all seriousness, at the end of this, I went to your website and I do want you guys to talk about some of the Pyrenees that you're looking for foster homes and that you're looking for adoptive parents, because that's really kind of what I want to accomplish with this. I want to talk about some of the issues that are breed specific and the homeless population of Pyrenees and some of the breed specific issues. And then as well, whatever we can do on our end here, Fuzzybutts and Friends, to help you guys get more foster homes because we just can't get enough of them. Right, Denise?
Right. No, you
More
can't.
foster
We need fosters.
We'd like to see fewer dogs. We'd like to see breeding laws enforced. I think a lot of people are breeding for income. They're doing it to supplement their incomes. They do not take care of the dogs. We just had a case in Mississippi, which is terrible, from a few dogs on a property. I think that were abandoned after a tornado in a house. They were not spayed or neutered. They certainly didn't have heartworm treatment, and they were breeding. And how many? We got 2 litters out of that house.
2 litters, yes.
Right, 2 litters so far. I'm thinking, what about Snow? Snow was the mother. There were actually 3 litters. There was a mother who then had puppies, and those puppies had puppies. And all this happened in the course of just a couple of years. It's terrible, and that's what happens. And the person who owned them was elderly, and he couldn't take care of them. He abandoned the house, left the dogs in the house, and then some local rescue people, they caught on to the situation, and it was too much for them to manage, so they reached out to us. But
Thank you.
this is going on, I think, in many parts of the country where people are looking to breed dogs to supplement their income.
Mhm.
And
I
they
don't
don't
want
care.
to. Exactly. You're preaching to a choir. I'm sure a very large choir here with the three of you. Ginger coming from the rescue, the animal shelter world. But it seems to me that Great Pyrenees in particular have some challenges out there in the rescue world. But I love the breed so much, and I've talked to so many people ad infinitum, ad nauseum about this issue on all sides of it. On the one hand, I love the breed so much that there need to be people out there that are making certain that the breed standards continue on for all of eternity, right? But somehow that's out of control, a totally unregulated market. Some of it, as you say, it's a scam. We know I've walked through Pennsylvania and Ohio, so I've seen firsthand puppy mills. I've seen the signs, especially the Amish communities. I'm not targeting them out specifically. Please don't think that. Wonderful people I spent time with. So it's a real problem. So it seems like you're, Barbara, that you're working on legislation. So what can we do out there to make sure that there are people out there, organizations that are making sure that we're maintaining the purity of the breed, but with not in excess of what is a reasonable market demand. We're certainly not, they're not profiteers out there, but we're certainly not creating this large population of Pyrenees that need unwanted Pyrenees that need a home. So how do we manage this, Denise and Barbara? How do we manage this very large type problem?
I don't know. I don't have an answer. If you, if
Well,
you
the
go,
podcast is over. Thanks, everyone here.
if you go on any of the Great Pyrenees
It's,
groups that are on Facebook, you can see there's huge controversies because people are getting, dogs, and they're having one. I'm only having one litter, and then they have one litter, and it's 9 or 10 dogs because, as you know, large dogs have large litters. A lot of people don't realize that, but small, little, teeny tiny dogs may have like 3 or 4 puppies at the most, but big dogs have big litters. We've seen litters up to 13 dogs, I think. It's amazing
yes.
how large the litters are. And these people say, oh, I place them in good homes, but they don't track where they go. And, they could end up in rescue in 6 months. And a lot of these people would never know. So, these well-intentioned people who just want to have one litter and they don't test their dogs for, hip issues or any other problems. They just breed them and put them out there. They're part of the problem. They love the breed and they're well-intentioned, but they're making the problem, even worse. And if you say anything on a group about it, you get your head caught off. People don't want to hear this.
Right, right. There,
And then,
there are, but there are all types of groups, but there are the ones out there that do follow the genetic lineage and that do track all of and they do to the best of at least to the extent to which I know these people personally, and I've certainly known them through the years. They seem to try to breed out some of the genetic disorders, bone cancer, which is a particular concern and interest to me and our foundation, the Puppy Up Foundation. So there are all types of folks in this equation. Some that are doing so many great things in the breeding world, or the maintaining the breed standard world, and then obviously the great things that you guys do in the rescue. And unfortunately, I also understand how the money works. That in the show dog world, they have all the money, whereas you guys in the rescue world, that you're doing all that you can to rescue the ones that need good homes, are always struggling for the money. So it's a very complicated issue, and it's one that I hope that we'll use this platform to discuss in many ways that we can, because I've made friends on our travels with people from the rescue world, and it's just something, it's a huge problem that
And
sorry,
look,
go ahead.
please understand, we don't have an issue with people who are responsible breeders in the breed club. Or people, who show their dogs. I mean, that's a whole other thing. I've been to many shows. My earlier years were spent at dog shows doing rescue with the breed club. So, I do not have a problem. The rescue does not have a problem with that because there is responsible breeding. But the problem is all the people who have sort of branched off of that. And they're not doing that. They're just breeding Bear and Missy and having a litter and putting them out there, and they don't get spayed or neutered, so that adds to the problem. So
Right. Ginger, you come from that world too, and you certainly understand the need for both. So what are your thoughts?
Well, I have several friends who are breeders, and they are so particular on to who gets their dogs. They follow up. Recently, a dog lost both of his owners, and I contacted the breeder, and she was like, hey, wait, in the contract, it says I get the dog back. And so, put her into contact with the people that she needed to get into contact with, and they worked it all out, and the dog got another wonderful family. But, the dog was 10 years old. So she still keeps up with her dogs when they're until the end of their life. And
that's,
I know a couple of golden retrievers like that, Bernese mountain dogs. And I appreciate those people because there's, you can get a mix. Like I had a German Shepherd mix and I loved him. I'll never get another dog like that because he was a mix. I'll never be able to do that. There was nothing about getting another Pete that I could ever do. Now, if I'm in love with German Shepherds and everything is done correctly, I should be able to go out and get another German Shepherd and be relatively secure in thinking that the breed is going to be the same. The personality, the breed tendencies are all going to be the same, just like you would with a Great Pyrenees. But when they wind up and the pool gets just mixed around, you don't know what you're going to get. You could say you're getting a Great Pyrenees, but it could have been mixed with something else that's not going to be a great mix with a Great Pyrenees. Or, Pete was a German Shepherdish Rottweiler mix, which could have turned into something very not good. But he was one of the first therapy dogs that St. Jude actually let in the hospital here in Memphis. So he had a wonderful personality, but he was also protective, kind of like Indiana.
Well, we're very conscious of the breeder connection and breeder responsibility. We ask on our surrender form where you got the dog. And if the dog came from a reputable breeder, we do everything to get that dog back to the breeder. And many times they will stand up for their dogs and they will claim them. Sometimes they don't. But, we want to make sure that if there's that connection that it's made and in giving the breeder the opportunity to take their dog back.
Mm-hmm. And I might add, the big difference in my mind also is a lot of these people that are just breeding their peers, they're selling them at 6 weeks old. That's another big difference between the reputable breeder who are keeping them till 11, 12 weeks old and starting to train them. I have 2 dogs on this property that were sold at 6 weeks old that were surrendered.
You mean, wait, peers can be trained? Have I missed something? I didn't.
It's a whole nother podcast episode right there. Pyrenees and my lifelong frustration with training, which is interesting enough on what we're about to do walk 3 in 6 months. And Grayson and I have a whole lot of training to do to get where we can walk from the Adirondacks down in New York City. So we're about to be in your neck of the woods. And so we might need some help from you guys up in New York State. Okay. But he's doing great. I could talk about him forever. I love him, but boy, he certainly does. He's I call him. He is. It's interesting. Cool. I didn't have your number whenever I decided and pulled the trigger to adopt him because I just for a number of reasons, but mostly He's just the biggest sweetheart in the world. I call him King Ding-a-Ling because he's not smarter than a potted plant, bless his heart. But he's the sweetest guy in the world, and I love him. And he had such a tough beginning, and I just knew that I wouldn't see him in any other home. So whenever I adopted him, I put out a TikTok video, and I wanted to send it to you guys. That like put it on social media is like, well, looks like I got myself a three-legged Pyrenees. But he's been wonderful, and I don't know. We'll get to a minute how your process and how you vet dogs and people as well. That's a big question: is how the heck did you allow me to have another Pyrenees? My Fuzzybutt number 5, 3 of mine have had cancer, which I can assure you I didn't give it to them. But we do all sorts of crazy adventures, but.
Luke, I think my name's
Before
on
we
the
get to
adoption
that, one
report.
thing I wanted to finish on, are there any other challenges, breed challenges that you guys are seeing out there in the animal rescue world?
I mean, other than the vast number of Great Pyrenees and
Correct.
Pyrenees puppies,
Absolutely.
we're very conscious of the cat issue, that there are so many homeless cats out there.
No, I mean breed specific challenges, like any other challenges that you're seeing is other just than having a surplus. I guess having
Training.
anything in particular mind.
Understanding the breed. I mean, I have a standard email that I send to people surrendering their dog or wanting to surrender, saying, do you realize that Great Pyrenees are different from other breeds, and the approach to training them might be different? So, you know, I am suggesting a trainer who is familiar with the breed, since many are not. You know, you have to approach this dog differently than you do other dogs that you've had. So the training to us, we want them to keep their dogs and work with their dogs. You know, everybody has rocky moments with their pets. And, you know, if you immediately say, oh, sure, we'll take their dog back, we're not giving them a chance, you know, to come to that realization that, you know, maybe they can work with this pet. So,
Yes. All right, we're back with Fuzzybutts and Friends. We certainly experienced a little technical difficulties there for just a little while. Like I said at the beginning of this episode, we need to get a Wi-Fi booster. So let's pick up where we left off. And we were talking about what you guys do as an organization, the National Great Pyrenees, to educate prospective adoptive parents and foster parents about the breeds, because the end game, as we know, is that sometimes they fail, right? Sometimes there's a foster parent fail. Sometimes there's a adoptive parent fail. So I'm sure you guys really want to reduce or minimize that from happening. So education is probably a big part of your organization's mission. Go ahead.
Is Barbara on?
yeah, I'm here, but you
Okay.
work more with the adopters now than I do. So
Okay, yeah. So,
Yeah.
I mean, even just from the very beginning when they put their application in. So for example, like I review all the puppy applications, and every email I send out, I include links to make sure they understand the breed, you know, before we even pursue it any further. And I'm amazed at the number of people that will reply back and say, oh, wow, we didn't realize all this, and we're going to withdraw our application. And every foster, you know, when we interview them and talk to them, we look at it as a potential peer owner if they don't already have a peer, because we do need to, because there, like you said, there is that possibility that they're going to want to foster fail, is what we call it, you know, adopt their dog. So we don't want to put a dog with a foster that we don't think would be a good fit. We have a pretty,
Sorry, go ahead.
go on. No, go ahead.
I just was going to just underscore that 1,000% is you don't want that to fail at all cost. And so to that end, you guys must have just a rock solid adoption process and vetting process. So talk about that.
Well, we used to have a 3-step process that involved, we talk to your vet, we make sure that your dogs and even your cats and horses, whatever you have, are, they're vetted properly. And we don't just dismiss somebody for uneducation. We do educate them if they don't know. It's amazing the number of people that aren't even aware of heartworm prevention, and their vets don't educate them on that. So yeah, even if we have to deny somebody for that, we educate them. We make sure they understand, and we say, check back with us in a year or two once you've, done this. We used to do both a telephone interview and a home visit. When COVID hit, we switched it to a virtual home visit, where we actually have them take us into their home so that we can actually, face-to-face talking and look at their fence. We look at their fence to make sure it's going to pass a Piers muster. They can't climb over it. The people with like the 4-board fence, is the metal on the inside or the outside? Because they will climb up those boards, and it's amazing the people that don't understand that. We, after our coordinators work with them and help them find, the right dog, we'll have people apply for a dog, and we try to make them understand that just because that dog caught your eye doesn't mean that dog's going to fit your home. But we will help you. Yeah.
I know you guys have a rather strenuous and lengthy vetting process, because I went through it myself not so long ago when I had my gotcha day with Grayson, and including the, what type of fencing do you have? And I kept looking at Ginger, and I'm like, they do know who I am, right? Right. I'm the Pyrenees guy. I'm the guy who's walked 4,000 miles of Great Pyrenees, and they live. We all live. So, and even though I got so much crap from Pyrenees people saying Great Pyrenees don't hike, they don't walk, they just sit around and look at livestock in a fenced-in area, which there is a lot of truth to that. But we made it. So I kept Ginger. I'm like, good God, I'm the Pyrenees guy. I'm that guy. But you got to do that, though. It's important that you do that, because, yeah, unfortunately, there is a large population, or at least a population of uneducated people, specifically about the Great Pyrenees. And one that I can speak to specifically, because it's been the bane of my existence on my walks. It's something that I'm going to be just frightened about every single day on walk 3, is a Pyrenees off leash. There's a famous saying of, what do you call a Pyrenees off leash? Ginger?
We call it appeared. I'm sure you've heard that before.
Gone.
Yeah, it's a
you cut out. Gone. I don't know. I guess so. We're losing internet connection here, so hopefully we won't lose our host again, which is me. So I heard it as, what do you call a Pyrenees off leash? Gone. And that's true. And both Hudson and Murphy got off leash when we were off of Highway 40 coming out of Baltimore. And I almost, and we were right near traffic, and that highway was like 6 lanes wide. The traffic is traveling 60, 70 miles. And I almost had like 10 heart attacks right there. And thank God we had such a trusting relationship, because all Hudson wanted to do was play. And Hudson's like, oh, it's playtime, let's play. Oh, it's so cute. And I'm like, no, there's traffic right there. So we all know that, and but most people don't know, is you have to, I don't know, and I don't want to drill down that much today, but can Pyrenees ever be off leash? Because I don't think that that's true. At least it's certainly not true in my case. You just can't trust them. So that's one of the types of breed-specific behaviorisms that pet parents need to know, is that you're not going to be able to take them to a park, typically, and just let them off leash and just walk around.
Right. Not one that's,
or even a dog park.
Oh, yeah. Especially if it's a big dog park. Well, I just have to interject. The last time that Hudson went on a walkabout, he walked into a library.
Oh,
He triggered the doors and just walked right into the
Oh,
library.
that's funny.
Yeah, but it was in Newport,
was
Rhode
funny,
Island,
but
though.
frightening.
It was in Newport, Rhode Island. It was a very posh library, and Hudson liked to be an educated, illuminated guy. So many great stories. He also was a rescue from Waco, Texas. That's a story for another time. So what are the, how do you, but okay, what are the ways that you vet people or educate people that you guys want to get out there in this podcast that are important to you before we move on?
What do we want to tell them?
Yeah,
Before they
anything else?
adopt?
Yeah, anything else any. So say that there's someone out there that sees a Pyrenees, maybe sees us on the road from the Adirondacks and goes, "Oh my God, I want a Pyrenees, a three-legged Pyrenees, like I did." And so they see him, they fall in love, and so they call you up. They're responsible, or at least they realize there are a bunch of Pyrenees that are out there and need good homes. They contact you. What do you want them to know before they even pick up the phone and call you?
For someone who wants to adopt one.
A Pyrenees, right? What do you want about the breed?
Well, we want them to educate themselves about the breed, know about the off-leash issues, know that they are a guardian breed. They're different from other dogs that they may have owned before, and that they need to really be patient and not correct them too harshly. I've seen that people are starting to talk about this and understand this, but you shouldn't be disciplining them the way you may have disciplined other dogs that you've owned. I mean, they get offended, they don't like it.
Well, oh boy, I'm glad that you mentioned that, Barbara, because my first Pyrenees, Malcolm, I had zero education. I got educated very quickly, but mine was sort of dropped in my lap. He was gifted to me by a good friend of mine. And so I didn't know anything about the breed. And so the only thing I knew was how growing up, because he was my first dog in my adult life. And so I'd never had a dog in my adult life. And so the only thing I knew about raising a dog was my parents. And you have to understand, in Texas, there were old school, and you discipline a dog. And so that's all I knew. And first of all, that doesn't work in dogs. And more importantly, that really doesn't work in Great Pyrenees. And so I tried that with Malcolm, and Malcolm was all of 3 or 4 months old, and he would just look at me like, "I'm sorry, who are you again?" And it just didn't work. And so I realized I was completely, totally outmanned, outwitted, out Pyrenees, out foxed, out whatever. And I had to learn real quick. And my apologies, I'm just getting over COVID myself. but I tried to give Malcolm back. I really did. I was almost a fail. This story almost did not get told, in all seriousness, because I called the person, my ex-girlfriend, and I said, "Hey, you got to come pick up this guy. I didn't really sign up for this. I'm too busy for all this. I don't really want a dog. What the hell was I thinking?" And she's like, no, I'm sorry, guys. It's a no return policy." Then I called. I actually called my parents, my mom, like, "Mom, you always wanted a dog. This one's it's a cute puppy." My mom and my dad were kind of retired, and they're like, "Nah, you're on your own, pal." So I was stuck with them. But it took a while, Barbara and Denise, and maybe you had the same experience with Pyrenees, but he broke me. He broke whatever preconception I had about dogs, about one's relationship with a dog, that even calling them a dog didn't even seem right to me anymore, or a pet didn't seem fair, or at least it didn't explain the feeling and the connection and the bond that I had with Malcolm. I was so completely unprepared for that feeling I had, that first spiritual connection I had with Malcolm in a Great Pyrenees, and it was powerful, and it changed me forever. Obviously, look at this. I'm talking to 3 people on the screen about Great Pyrenees, about to get on the road and walk 400 miles, and I just turned 50. And I'll be in a sleeping bag with the 3-legged Pyrenees for about two months. So, but in all seriousness,
I have to correct you. You just turned 51.
Thank you. in related
I
news,
just want to make sure you know how old you are.
in related news, Ginger Morgan is no longer a co-host of Fuzzybutts and Friends. So in all seriousness, the bond is so profound that I look back in this conversation we're having and I reflect back on it right now, and I think, my God, it was a Great Pyrenees that got me here and had changed my life, because since I lost him to cancer and I got on the road and walked 2,300 miles. Well, the second he was diagnosed with cancer, I was in Boston at the time. I've only been up in Boston for 6 months. Second he was diagnosed with cancer, it changed my life. I didn't know how and when or how at that moment, but it changed my life. And I attribute a lot of that to the power of the connection, the power of the companion animal, but also the power of the breed, the Pyrenees breed. So if I'd had a dachshund, I don't know, and I love doxies. Please no hate. Please no doxy people. Oh, no hate me. No hate on Ginger puppy. I'm probably gonna have one in my sleeping bag because they burrow, and I want to keep my feet warm for walk 3. So no hate on me. But if I lost a doxy to cancer, like my good friend Mark Buckland got, I love him. And I've got to get him on the show and talk about his boy, what a story. But I'm not sure that I would have sold my truck, put my stuff in the storage, and just started walking across country. So I do feel like I love all breeds of dogs. I do, all flavors, all sizes, all flavors. She's had so many different varieties, and I've loved all of them when I've been here in Memphis and spent time with her. All the ones I've met on my walk. Save for a couple that didn't like me. Karma was one of them. I think Karma was in Ohio, as a matter of fact. She didn't like me so well. So I love dogs.
Was in Kansas, but that was actually the dog's name.
Yeah, Karma. Yeah, she bit me in the arse. Actually, it was kind of funny. Karma bit me in the arse, literally. But aside from a few dogs, I love them all. They love me, but it's just the power of the Pyrenees is the thing that started my mission, I think. It really did. The power of the Pyrenees started my mission, and to a certain extent has kept my mission now 4,000 miles and just about to be 4,400 miles going on in the future, because they're just a wonderful breed. So I want to talk one more thing before we go and wrap up, and that's just briefly about spaying and neutering and the requirements there, because I want this to me, this is a very important conversation, because my world consists of cancer and companion animals, and Ginger's does as well. As the executive director of the Puppy Up Foundation. And so, unfortunately, there are organizations out there that are doing God's work, just trying to find homes for animals. And I know, I've met them, I've spent time in their shelters, volunteered in their shelters. I know what they're up against. But for large breeds, science has shown us that early spay and neuter in large breed, giant breed dogs, which Great Pyrenees are, it does lead to a higher incidence of bone cancer. And the science is out there. And to the best of my knowledge, I don't know. I know who did the study. I think it was Ogilvy who did the original study. There have been some subsequent studies in the past. Maybe you guys, if you know this. But what I love about your organization and why I want to bring this up is you're cognizant and aware of that fact. And maybe we can work together and get out there and talk to and engage other shelters, other great rescue groups, and say, hey, what you're doing is wonderful by getting dogs spayed and neutered, but it's a costly problem to track and monitor. But if you spay or neuter this large breed Pyrenees, you're probably going to chances are you're going to be putting a cancer dog back in the population. So you guys just pick it up, take it away. I love what you're doing, and thank you for having a policy. What is your policy, first of all?
Our puppies are adopted off on spay neuter contracts, but in the contract, it actually says the males need neutered by a year, the females by 8 months before their first heat cycle. I mean, obviously, if one of them is bigger than what, You know, some of them are going to be like 150 pounds. And if your vet insists and you give us a letter, we will work with you on that. But we don't spay and neuter our puppies young. We do send them out on spay neuter contracts, but we do like to see the females before their first heat cycle for health reasons. And, you know, the males we give to a year old. But like Barbara said, you know, it's a lot of tracking to make sure we follow up and we make sure that happens.
It's a job. It's a volunteer's job. And at every board meeting we have, we review the spreadsheet of, you know, how many dogs are out there, when's their due date, and, you know, how are we doing with getting the paperwork. And a lot of times we have to take the initiative and just call their vet because they're not getting back to us and say, hey, you know, was bear neutered? You know, and frequently they will say yes, you know, but the people just aren't getting back to us. So we do everything we can to ensure that they are.
Right, and just exactly. And I know it's a tough issue, but we've got to start talking about it because I'm a pet parent. There are 2 to 4 million cases, new cases of cancer every year. So it's a big problem. We don't know what percentage of that represents bone cancer, but bone cancer is one of the top 3 of the cancers: lymphoma, hemangioma, bone cancer. So it's a big number. And we know bone cancer is mostly a cancer of large breed dogs. And so we know there's a very large case. So it's an important topic, but it's also a delicate one because I know there's a big problem, especially we talked about it, Pyrenees puppies that breeders just put out there that if they're not spayed or neutered, because especially in the South, boy, I worked with one of the shelters and met one of the shelter directors up in the Nashville area, and they had a wonderful campaign that we're targeting because in the South, the machismo, a lot of the tough guy I won't say cowboy, anyway, just the tough guy mentality is, I want to keep my boy intact, right? You've heard that, you all have heard that, especially in Ohio and stuff. I don't understand. I kind of understand it. I'm a dude, so I guess I kind of understand it to a certain extent. But we know that it's not a good thing. So they created this whole educational campaign directed at men that just think it's manly to keep them intact. So there's a balance that we all have to get, and because it's a shared ecosystem, right? The large breed Pyrenees people, we don't want more Pyrenees out there with bone cancer, but we also don't want more Pyrenees making more homeless Pyrenees. So this is a good occasion and platform for us to start this conversation. And I hope to have many more people from the shelter community, from the rescue community, and also from the cancer community as well, because I think we work together. Maybe we can find a solution, because that shared expense that you're talking, or that expense that you're talking about, Barbara, I'm a solution guy. That's what I am. I'm always thinking a solution. So that overhead expense that you're talking about, which is an FTE, a full-time employee, to have to track all of your fostered or your adopted dogs out to make sure that they spay or neuter within the 1 year time frame. That's actual man hours that somebody has to do. And as we all know from the nonprofit world, you got to pay somebody for that, to do that.
Right.
So maybe, hold on a second, please, if you don't mind. I got these thoughts. I have a solution in mind. So maybe we can all look at, and maybe there are other shelters out there or rescues that are trying to use technology to replace an FTE to do a better job of tracking it, so it doesn't become an overhead expense on the part of the National Great Pyrenees. So what I love and what I hope for that we accomplish with the Fuzzybutts and Friends is what I've already been doing on my travels, is having these conversations with people all across the country. But hopefully we can have these conversations and then come back and then all have them together and figure out these shared solutions.
There's one preliminary step that's important, which is when we do the vet check, we make sure that that person's dogs are spayed and neutered, and that they have a history of spaying and neutering their dogs. And if there is a dog who is unspayed or unneutered, that if that dog is a show dog, and that is a legitimate show dog, and we will accept that. But otherwise, if they have a history of having unspayed or unneutered, even cats, in animals in their house, we're not going to adopt to them. So we try and take that preliminary step so we have a level of comfort with sending the dog out to this family.
So you say no to repeat offenders then. So I understand that, because at some point you got to do it. It makes sense. Or to me, it makes sense. But at the 1 year mark, I'm comfortable with that. Again, we don't have enough research. That's another thing, is that if we keep having this conversation and keep talking about it, hopefully we can get somebody to come in and puppy up, maybe a co-partner in sponsoring a study where we can get actual more data out there and figure out, okay, what really are we talking about? Is it a 2 to 3 times greater risk of bone cancer if we spay or neuter large breed dogs before 1 year, or what? Let's really kind of find out what the numbers are, what we're looking at. So this is why conversations like this are so important. Barbara and Denise, you've been great. Is there anything else you'd like to share about your wonderful organization, the National Great Pyrenees Rescue, or anything else you'd like to share with pet parents?
Well, most importantly, we need fosters. I think a lot of rescues are feeling kind of beat up at this point because a lot of dogs were adopted out during COVID, and a lot of dogs are coming back. And because people, they're not home anymore. They can't take care of their dogs. Their dogs aren't used to being alone. So, we need people to understand that, as we talked about, they have to work with their dogs, but also that, they have to make an effort to keep them. But if they are surrendered, that rescues need fosters. Everyone says you do great work, but the question is, well, how can you help? And fostering is probably the #1 need, but there's also administrative work that can be done. Being an adoption coordinator, make these adoptions happen. If you're a computer person, hey, get into our database, and work with the information there. If you like to drive, become a transport person. I mean, there's a lot of ways that you can support rescue, and we hope people will think about that, because we need their help. All the peer rescues, no matter where they are. We have a lot of dogs and we need a lot of help.
That's great. Now, where can they do that? What's the website? And then the last thing before you go, I almost forgot. I want to show some of your adopted, some of the dogs that need good homes. So I went to your website. I want to bring up, I'm going to see Ginger, maybe the host, and I'm going to see if I can somehow share that with you in a second. But tell us where can people go to sign up for a foster? Because goodness gracious, Ginger can't keep adopting Pyrenees, because I'm maxed out with 2. So where do people go?
Well, the website is nationalpr.org. And once you get there, you can go to our volunteer info page. And it'll, there you go. And it'll give you a lot of different options, that you can follow. There's a general volunteer form that everybody fills out. Once you do that, then, we will talk to you and try and figure out what's the best thing you can do. For us.
Okay, so we're looking at the adoption center on nationalpr.org. So is there anybody you want to talk about here? Tell us what we're looking at. Walk us through here for a minute or two.
If I can click through this, let's see.
Go to the adoptable dogs.
Yeah, go to adoptable dogs.
Okay, here's a list. Can you guys see that?
Yep, and that's our feed from Adopt a Pet, and the dogs are listed in alphabetical order. We try and tell people where they are as far as their location goes. And I want to check, and we probably have about 100 dogs listed at this point, Denise?
Yeah, I think that's what it showed earlier.
Yeah.
And many more.
I can't look. I can't look anymore.
Yeah, Ginger's going to probably end up with 2 of those here, and I've got my fill. Well, they're
Go for the bonded pair, Ginger.
Well, they all look wonderful. Unfortunately, I saw that there was the neediest cases, and those break my heart. And I realized I kind of helped. We fostered one of your needier cases at the time. But to tell you the truth, Denise and Barbara, I can't really even hear their backstory because it just breaks my heart. I'm going to go ahead and stop the share with this. It's so tough for me as a dad and the father to my Pyrenees, my boys. To hear the tough cases, it breaks my heart, and it brings out the mads in me, and it just takes me to a place where I can't go. But you have the neediest cases, and please go check out those, everyone. Ginger had to check out and head out. She had an obligation. So we're winding up here. Make sure you check out the neediest cases. Those are very important. You may end up with a 3-legged Pyrenees. If so, call me for support. I'm here for you. I'll walk you through it. Well, guys, it's great. Denise, Barbara with the National Great Pyrenees Rescue, thank you so much for being here on episode 4 of Fuzzybutts and Friends, the Fuzzybutt episode. So puppy up.
Great. Thank
Talk
you.
soon. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you much.
Bye.